Hello, fellow teachers and educators. Welcome to another one of our TKT CLIL Test videos. And this is a series of practice videos, but practice for what? Practice for the TKT CLIL Test. So if you're a fellow educator or a bilingual teacher who needs to add this certification to your collection of teaching certifications that you already have, this video is for you. Of course, this is practice number 9. That means that there's 8 practices before this one, because we're basically taking each of the tasks from the test that you can see on the screen, and we are solving the questions from the test. So if you want to download the test, even if you want to download the answers, there's a link to both in the comment section of this video. And before we start, don't forget to like the video if you watch it and like it, and subscribe to our channel to help us out with some more audience. And let's get started. So this specific task, task 9, is the first task of the 3rd section of the TKT CLIL test. Just to remind you all, the test has 4 sections. Each section has a certain number of tasks, and inside the tasks are questions. So let's see this example. This is task 9. So task 9 includes questions from 51 to 57 out of a total of 80 in the test. So there's 7 questions. And there's other tasks in this section of the test. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the section in a couple of minutes. But let's look at this question and understand what it is about. So for questions 51 to 57, match the teacher's language with its teaching purpose, listed A through H. Mark the correct letter A through H on your answer. There is one extra option, which you do not need to use. So you have 51 to 57 examples of teacher's language. So this is exactly what the teacher is saying. This is important because this is the language that the teacher is using to speak directly to students. And the table that shows letters A through H lists some purposes, some teaching purposes. So we're going to connect the example that comes straight from the teacher to the purpose. So we need to ask ourselves, why is the teacher saying what the teacher is saying? What does the teacher want to do pedagogically here, right? We're going to get to that in a minute. But before that, let's just delve a little bit deeper into this question. So again, this part of the CLIL test that this question comes from is, or this section, is called lesson delivery. So this has to do with how we teach lessons, how we deliver lessons. To deliver lessons means to teach them, to facilitate the lesson to the group of students. And there's 3 tasks. This is the first of them. And there's 20 questions in total. So we're probably going to have 776, the number of questions per task, or 767, or whatever comes our way. And we have the areas of teaching knowledge here: classroom language, scaffolding content and language, methods to help learners develop strategies, consolidating learning, and differentiation. And of course, we're talking about the language that the teacher is using. We're talking about classroom language. This is important, right? It's important here that we identify which area of TKT CLIL, of the TKT CLIL syllabus, let's put it this way, the test is focusing on, or the task is focusing on. All right, so before we go deeper into the question, let's look at what classroom language is, which is sometimes referred to as teacher's language. So basically, this refers to the way you speak to students as a teacher in the classroom, and the purpose behind the language that you use. Because every time you use language, every time you're providing instruction or facilitating a learning, you are using language. And the language aims to unpack something. There's a strategy behind it, or there should be at least. And that's what the test wants to remind us teachers of. So in this analysis, we're going to begin from C and then go to B and then go to A, because it makes more sense this way. So let's begin with the first example under C. On your own, write down the names of any Greek heroes you have heard about. Again, the teacher is not teaching anything about Greek heroes yet. Basically, the teacher is asking them, write anything or names you know about Greek heroes. So the teacher, as we see in B, wants to encourage learners to think about what they already know about the content subject, which is an example of activating prior knowledge. At the beginning of a lesson, before you provide any instruction or before you show anything to students, it's always good practice to try to determine what they already know about it. That's what the teacher is trying to do. So let's move to the next example. Listen to the way we describe the information represented on the first line graph before you describe the second graph. Notice here, listen first to a description before you describe it yourself. So the teacher, as the purpose states, wants the students to listen to accurate language in context. What's the right language to describe this graph? So that's an example of modeling. The teacher is modeling content and language for learners to produce, because you're guiding your students to first listen before they do something similar. So first they see the model and then they reproduce the model. Let's put it this way. Now, next example. Look at the two paintings and tell me the names of 4 images which look real. Now, look at the way the clock is painted. Does it look real? Why not? It is called surreal. Again, the teacher is guiding the students through new content or through something new that the teacher is teaching. So the purpose of this language is actually to teach something new, to teach subject-specific knowledge. And the use of language here is explaining a new concept. That's why the teacher used the language that she or he used, because it's explaining what surreal is to students. Last but not least, think of 3 questions you'd expect to be answered in this article on the rise of capitalism. Again, the teacher is encouraging students to think independently. So, as the purpose states, to encourage deeper thinking and learner independence. So the teacher is encouraging learners to ask questions. That's the purpose behind this particular example that we see here. So this is what we're going to do. The catch, though, is that in the TKT CLIL test, the question is going to provide 2 of these elements, but won't provide the third. So you have to figure out the third and connect. So you have to figure out the purpose. Why is the teacher using the language that he or she is using? So we're going to have to figure out B in order to connect A and C. That's the key element that we need here to solve the question. And it's not that difficult, you will see. So let's see here. Again, we have teaching purposes on one side, teacher's language on the other side. The task involves matching teacher's language to purposes. And the strategy is to analyze the purpose behind the teacher's language, right? And so we can figure out the use. So analyze the purpose. If we put these examples here on the table that we just saw, the teaching purposes here could be, some of them would be under use and some of them would be under purposes because they're closely connected. So let's move straight to question 51 here. So the teacher is telling the students, let's brainstorm together different ways of recording information. Again, let's brainstorm together. Brainstorming usually refers to activating what students already know, relying on students' experiences, because you are brainstorming before you do something or before you teach something. So the teacher is not giving a practical demonstration. The teacher is not developing independence because it's given together. First of all, there's nothing being demonstrated, and the learners are not doing anything by themselves. But the teacher is activating prior knowledge here, because that's what brainstorming is for. So number 51, that's for sure letter C. Number 52, these are called databases. This is Excel. These are known as column graphs. So the teacher is definitely teaching something here. Now let's see if it relates to content or if it relates to language. But definitely the teacher is teaching something before the students need to know it or explaining as they need to know about it. So let's see. It's not a practical demonstration. There's nothing being demonstrated. It's not related to learner independence. We already have C. It's not encouraging the use of first language. It is pre-teaching vocabulary, but let's see if there's anything else that will tie with that. Developing communicative skills, that's too broad. Giving feedback, providing a language support frame. No, there's no frames there. That's definitely letter E. The teacher is pre-teaching vocabulary, because if the students are going to need databases in this lesson, they're going to need to know what Excel is, and they're going to need to know what a column graph or a bar graph or a line graph, those other types of graphs are. The teacher is front-loading vocabulary, pre-teaching vocabulary. Those two terms refer to teaching something before students need it, or providing the vocabulary. Number 53, discuss with a partner which of the databases will be the most effective for presenting average monthly temperatures. Discuss with a partner. Let's pay attention to this one. If students are discussing, they're talking to each other, they're interacting, they're communicating. Let's think of that. So let's look for those clues. Is the teacher giving a practical demonstration? No. Is the teacher developing independence? Not necessarily, because they're going to do it in groups. Activating prior knowledge, we've used. Encouraging the use of first language? No. Pre-teaching vocabulary, we've used. Developing communicative skills, for sure. Giving feedback, not the case. Providing a language support frame, no, that's not for support. That's definitely for communication, so that's letter F, developing communicative skills. Number 54. So the teacher tells the students, look at the screen as I explain. Open Excel. Click on the chart wizard button and using column graph, write the temperatures. Click finish to see the graph. Now you try. All right, that's definitely a demonstration. The teacher is speaking as she or he is doing something. That's definitely letter A. We don't need to look any further. Number 55, even by looking at it, we have a clue, a big clue, because those look like frames to me. Complete the sentences using the information from the graph. January was blah, blah, blah month. July and August were blah, blah, blah months. November wasn't blah, blah, blah month. Okay, so those are definitely frames or sentence frames, or it's a type of support frame. What is that? Well, it's basically a sentence that you want your students to use, but because they are developing language, you keep part of the sentence and you remove only the language aspect you want them to focus on. Because by filling up these sentences again and again, the students will memorize the frame and then later be able to use the frame independently. So this is a scaffold. This is to provide support. So 55, H. 56. Use the internet to find the average monthly temperatures in two cities, one in Europe and one in Asia. Put the information in a spreadsheet using Excel. Well, the students will do this by themselves, right? They're going to use the internet. The teacher is just guiding them what to do. They're definitely doing something independently. So this is an activity aimed at developing learner independence. That's definitely letter B. In 57, you've missed out a column on your spreadsheet. Look at it again and tell me what it is. Well, a classic example of feedback, right? That's letter G. The teacher is giving feedback. And we didn't see any examples of first language because there's nothing here that invites students to use their first language. There's no reference to the student's first language. That's just direct reference to the content being taught in English. And again, this is databases and graphs and using Excel. That's what the content is. Again, some resources for those of you who want to learn more. I always recommend Kay Bentley's book. A great resource for TKT CLIL Test Prep. Not getting paid anything. It's just a good book. And I'm just recommending it to you. And the free handbook for teachers that you can download from Cambridge, the one on the right, there's a link to it below. You can download it by using the link. Please don't forget to subscribe to this channel. It really helps us in terms of providing us with connections with more people, a larger audience, Like the video if you think you've been useful. Leave a comment, interact with us, and we'll be glad to talk to you. And don't forget to check the recommendations that we're leaving at the end. And see you in the next video.